several members of Parliament who have spoken on the finance bill. So the vision of the Honourable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, has been to establish a simple, efficient, fair and equitous, technology-driven taxation regime in this country. So simplification and ease of compliance for the taxpayer has been the primary objective with which in the last 10 years and this year in the third term of Prime Minister Modi, the approach to taxation has been to simplify the taxation, reduce the burden on taxpayer and make sure it is transparent and equitous. So this year also our approach has been that we bring in greater simplification of tax laws and procedures and that we enable growth and employment in this country. So the twin approach for getting the taxation regime in this country a lot more simpler and technology driven has been the broad principle based on which the proposals have been laid before this august House. We've actually brought in transformational changes in the tax governance in the last decade. So without drastically increasing taxes and minimizing litigation, we have actually helped, I would think, in bringing a simplified taxation regime, greater transparency, ease of compliance, and driven by the trust we have on the taxpayers. So several members have spoken about tax burden on the middle class. I'll of course come a bit later to talk and to respond to individual honorable members who have spoken on specific issues. But broadly on this issue of burdening the middle class, several members have spoken, but I would just take some names. Other names will come when I respond in specific. Amar Singh ji, Arun Nehru ji, Neeraj Maurya ji, Supriya Sule ji, Tanuj Punya ji, Sachidanandam, Honourable Member, and also Honourable Member Avinash Reddy ji have all spoken about the burden on the middle class, taxes not really being reduced on them and so on. In general, I want to put forth before you, sir, that the specific items on which I would propose, and I believe that middle class stand to benefit. So I will name them, specify them. In 2023, sir, the slabs for personal income tax were significantly liberalized. All taxpayers had reduced tax liability of 37,500 rupees. This government has again revised slabs in the new regime even now in this budget. Certainly this has an impact on the middle class, I would believe. Standard deduction for salaried employees has also been increased from 50,000 to 75,000 in the new regime in this budget. This is an effective relief of up to 17,500 for a salaried employee. This again, I would believe, benefits the middle class. So further, deduction on family pension for pensioners is proposed to be enhanced from 15,000 rupees to 30,000 rupees. For salaried employees, deduction on employers' contribution in case of employees who are in private sector and public sector banks, those who are opting for the new tax regime, has been raised from 10% to 14% in this budget. Again, middle class stands to benefit from this as well. So, in specific, in the last 2 years, substantial relief has been given to the middle class. I may point out a few things, sir, that while most developed countries were increasing personal income taxes during the COVID-19 crisis, Prime Minister Modi's direction to me and I've said this earlier also in this House, I'd like to repeat now. Prime Minister Modi's direction to me was totally in contrast with what was happening in developed countries. No tax on our citizen to meet the COVID expenditure. And I would strongly request the honourable members to look back at what happened between 2020, 21, 22, 23. We have not increased the tax at all, sir. Effective tax on an income of 15 lakh rupees, I'm taking it as an example, effective tax on an income of 15 lakhs was reduced to 10% in 2023 and has been further reduced this year as well. So I want to make this point clear, sir. Again, I would strongly believe this would certainly help the middle class. Again, sir, I would like to remind through you, sir, the August House, that from the days of tax terrorism, when we were accused in 2014, saying do something immediately because tax terrorism is affecting the middle class and small businesses, and the rent-seeking approach of a few in the service had really hurt many of the taxpayers, and this was one of the biggest challenges before this government. Earlier in 2014, again in 2019, when we're trying to bring in the faceless system, we have moved away from those days, sir, because we brought in the faceless system, which is taxpayer friendly, infused confidence in the taxpayer, and any inquiry on the tax could be responded via email or messages. Besides this, sir, Vivad Se Vishwas schemes were brought in, as a result of which, periodically, again this time also we've come up with the Vivad Se Vishwas, and as a result of which, periodically, pending litigation and demands have all been sorted out. Relief was brought in to a wide range of taxpayers, largely, data shows, largely the beneficiaries are MSMEs, individuals, and small companies. I would think this is also the segment which is the middle class segment. So they have found relief because of the Vivad Se Vishwas. So furthermore, small, old and petty unverified tax demands of 90 lakh taxpayers were totally removed from the records as announced in the interim budget of 2024. ये घोषणा 2024 interim budget में हुआ था, मगर उसका असर अभी दिखने लगे कि 90 लाख टैक्स पेयर्स को हम राहत देने के लिए उस समय घोषणा की। 1.1 करोड़ एंट्रीज इससे निकला रिकॉर्ड से बाहर। इससे राहत सब मिडिल क्लास को मिलता है, छोटे बिजनेसेस को मिलता है। मैं ये जरूर कहना चाहती हूं सर, स्टार्टअप्स के लिए, फॉर स्टार्टअप्स द रिमूवल ऑफ एंजल टैक्स has come as a big relief, and this was introduced. We have removed it all right, and last year and the year before that we tried removing the startup world from some of the provisions of the angel tax, and we thought that would address the problem. But if the festering problems really worried the small businesses and the startups in particular, we have totally removed it, abolished it. But when was it brought in? It was brought in 2012, sir. And from then, they, in spite of having at least 2 full years in their hand, the UPA government did not remove the startup. Okay, yes, 10 years, but who was the one who called it as exploitative tax?
Yes.
You called it exploitative tax. The leader of the opposition called it exploitative tax. And when he introduced it, did he not know that it was exploitative? And now, when you demand abolition of it, you forget that you brought it in, but because you now said it is exploitative, the whole world has to accept it. We have worked on it so that the burden because of these angel tax does not fall on small businesses. But eventually, after having worked on it 2 years over, we have now removed it. But I would again like to remind, sir, through you, that it was called as an exploitative tax and we shall remove it was a claim by the one who brought it in the first place. Sir, exemption limit of 1 lakh for LTCG, capital gains, long-term capital gains on certain financial assets, such as those which are shares and bonds, have been given, and it is in this budget raised to 1.25 lakhs, which also, I strongly believe, benefits the middle class, because small money which is getting invested in shares and stocks and in bonds for small returns that people would want to have, because their investing capacities are not very big. Even for them, this budget has given relief in that we've exempted it from any kind of tax, and that 1 lakh exemption has been enhanced to 1.25. So middle class, which finds that returns from the stock markets are much better than some of the investing, some of the saving schemes, and therefore who have gone there in their own wisdom, we have not taxed them, we have only given them exemption and enhanced exemption, 1 lakh to 1.25 lakh exemption, certainly aiming at the middle class, sir.